Welcome here, everybody, and thank you for your time and attention for AnnieMac Home Mortgage's National Lunch and Learn League, sponsored entirely by AnnieMac Home Mortgage and the mortgage professionals that are in those rooms across the country with you. My name is Russ Fitzpatrick. I've had the good fortune of being one of the founders of the AnnieMac Worx productivity platform, and it's really been an honor and a privilege for the last 6.5 years to be in service, just a humble servant leadership position with our real estate partners from across the country, bringing value without any expectation of a payment or any kind of obligation whatsoever. So we can't thank you enough for taking some time with your local mortgage professional to get to know AnnieMac Home Mortgage and AnnieMac Worx productivity platform a little bit better today. I was charged with the responsibility to come up with a topic for this National Lunch and Learn, knowing that we had 400 some odd venues from across the country that are going to be logging on today, and saying that's thousands of real estate agents. What would be the topic that was most important to those realtors? And here's what I came up with: real estate business systems and sources. We didn't have much of a reaction to that title. Nationally, it seemed to be a little underwhelming, so I had the brainchild to add a subtitle: Real Estate Business Systems and Sources for Predictable, Recurring Revenue, and Sustainable ROI. I just knew that would get the attention of the hearts and minds of our real estate relationships, our real estate referral partners across the country. And even as early as yesterday and a couple of days ago, I was getting inquiries. Russ, what the heck does that even mean? What is the sources about, and what is business systems? So we're changing the name effective immediately to Make More Money in Real Estate, with a great big cash grab going on. And I hope if we work together today, you're going to see that there's some intention to pass down some of the genius from the industry, some of the pass-me-down wisdom that might escape some of you. See, I'm lucky. I have the perspective of working with some of the elite real estate professionals across the country, some of the top-tier real estate brokers. Some of you are in those rooms right now, and I've had the good pleasure of learning what you do to pass it on to our real estate referral partners across the country. So when I say business systems and everyone starts to yawn and roll their eyes there, it's because the language of business systems is a little bit less than exciting. Methodical procedures and processes that used to deliver a delivery mechanism for providing specific goods or services. What about this one? A system is a procedure. A system is a process, or maybe my favorite, a course of action. A system is a course of action, little steps that you could take to achieve a desired outcome. Now, the last little description I'm going to give you is my humble opinion that there's really no other way. There's really no other way than processes and methodology to get a desired result that's predictable and recurring. So a lot of you are out there, try, fail, adjust, try, fail, adjust. And then once in a while you stumble on something, it's try, fail, adjust, try, fail, succeed, 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 succeed. Once you find that success, it's about reproducing that success over repetitious involvement. One of the first words that Mike Ferry ever said to me back in the 90s was repetitious involvement, and it stuck real heavily. He's the highest paid coach in the history of the real estate industry. So if I have my way today, we're going to dissect 8 systems. We're going to take a really close look at 8 systems, and then I'm going to show you where you can go to get more information on those systems. So first, a system for capturing past customers and past customer referrals. That sound like a good one? How about a system for converting for sale owners without ever making a cold call? If that system exists, would you want to know more about it? Number 3, selling houses faster and for more money. A system to make you stand out above the other realtors. Something that can differentiate you when you're competing for a listing, when you're out in the field with consumers. A system to make you more efficient in social media. That's number 5. Actually not last or least, number 6, automate and upgrade your Facebook presence. That's a system that is being used by realtors across the country. Systematic ads that produce results, and add 6 new listings to your real estate inventory during 2017. If we could add 6 new listings without ever making a cold call, would you be interested in what we're talking about here? And then we're going to end the day today on a new way to manage yourself that's being used by thousands of elite realtors across the country. So if that's all interesting, I'm going to put an exclamation point on it and tell you there's no charge for any of these systems. All of them can be implemented with sweat equity, if not check equity. There's some labor involved, but there's things that you can do in your local markets right away to get yourself started. And I want to confide in you that my addiction to business systems started in 1986 when I was fumbling through the real estate industry as a young realtor associate. A mentor of mine handed me a book called The E-Myth, which was later reissued as the E-Myth Revisited and then the E-Myth Mastery Program. And I've been a student of all of those books by the great Michael Gerber in an effort to understand and utilize systems integration and business strategies that the elite. So much so that way back in 1989, I produced a little workbook as a humble rookie realtor called How to Present Your Home for Sale, your step-by-step guide to achieving the possible price. So you're seeing a theme in a 34, 33-year career that it's always about systematizing preparation, pricing, marketing, showing, negotiating. And we bring that to you after having sold and closed more than 3,500 homes in 32 years, managed a real estate brokerage with about 540 realtors that worked for me. At that time, we were closing about 300 closings a month, and we were listed in the top 200 brokerages in the country as a risk media power broker. I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm going to tell you, systems play a big part into all those successes. And here's one of my great passions in the residential real estate industry. It's the disparity between the haves and the have-nots. Should I say the haves and the have-nots in residential real estate? See, in every other industry in the world, there's a bell curve. There's the average and then there's the rest. But in residential real estate, there's a big dent in the right-hand side of the income continuum. It says very clearly in every county that we service that 79% of the real estate agents in those rooms across the country, 79% of the active licensed board members across the country make less than $40,000 a year. But there's this group, some of you are in the room right now, the top 5%, where all the genius in the residential real estate industry resides, make over $100,000 up to $2 million a year or more. And I believe it's implementing subtle systems that you can take with you today to help you move from the left side of the income continuum to the right. Now, Annie Mac Home Mortgage was started about 6.5 years ago and embraced the Annie Mac Worx productivity platform to empower emerging associates, to help those folks that are 6 to 12 deal-a-year agents that are in those rooms today, to enrich the lives of our productive agents. There's people that are in the room today that are closing between 12 and 25 transactions a year and need some efficiencies in organization and management to come along with it. And then really to help our elite associates, those agents that are consistently doing 2, 3, 4 closings a month, to help them have a higher quality of life by being more efficient. And when we went out with that mission, when we went out with that olive branch to the residential real estate community, I can tell you that the mortgage production of Annie Mac Home Mortgage increased exponentially month after month, quarter after quarter, and certainly year after year. So we're very, very proud to have this as the central focus of our relationship. So we already told you which systems we were going to focus on today, but before we dig deep into the 8 most relevant and timely systems that we're going to bring into your professional endeavor, I want to talk about a milkshake machine that was Ray Kroc's personal passion. He was 57 years old, and he believed that being able to make 5 milkshakes per shot at one time was better than to be able to do it in one blender at a time. So he went on the road selling these malted milkshake machines, and he visited with a company called McDonald's out in California. He did sell them a machine, and later they opened, tens of thousands of restaurants. The subtle nuance of a system that made 5 milkshakes at one time rather than one wasn't the claim to fame, and I'm going to share with you why this is such a vital analogy for the discussion that we're both about to have. See, as he started to manage restaurants across the country, he was enraged at the lack of conviction that his restaurateurs had for simple systems that he could integrate into their processes to make them much more efficient, but also to provide consistency in the products and services that he delivered. The movie just came out starring Michael Keaton called The Founder, and I had read a book called Grinding It Out, an autobiography of Ray Kroc, because I'm so fascinated by business systems. But in order to take it down a notch, let's talk about one system that he fought for a decade and a half before it came to reality. And that was the simple placement of pickles on his cheeseburger. He said, stop throwing a pile of pickles onto the sandwich. Instead, gently lay 3 pickles in a symmetry, a triangle, so that every bite in the customer's mouth has a little tart taste of pickle. Now, it seems like such a teeny little nuance, and it's almost silly for me to bring it up to you right now. But when you're thinking about 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, onion, cheese on a sesame seed bun, you don't think of IBM, you don't think of some incredible CRM program. You think about a subtle little system, a course of action that changed the world of restaurant ownership for almost every restaurant in the world. It was systems integration and franchise prototyping that made McDonald's such an iconic American cultural shift. Now, we all have different opinions of the actual product, but you can't argue with the most profitable restaurant in the world that's run by 16-year-olds. So is there some meat on that bone to help you differentiate yourself in the market like he did his restaurant? So when we talk about franchise prototyping, when we talk about business system integration, or when we talk about planning for eventualities in a real estate transaction, are we talking about complex technical undertakings? Are we talking about little subtle changes that you can make that can affect the trajectory of your professional endeavor for the rest of your life? I want to highlight the fact that a little nuanced change, and a couple of them that you're going to see today, can really rapidly increase the quality of your life, the quality of the relationships that you have with your consumers, and maybe most importantly, work less, earn more. If that's not a hot topic, I don't know what is. But I want to talk about 2 restaurants that are competing in my hometown. These are 2 restaurants in Delray Beach, Florida. I live in the northwest corner of Broward County down by Fort Lauderdale. But ultimately, Ruby Tuesdays is a chain that consistently spits out between $300,000 and $500,000 a year in profit per store nationwide. Meanwhile, there's an independent that has a significantly better location, has significantly better decor, and I dare say a better food menu than that Ruby Tuesdays chain. Meanwhile, this facility keeps changing hands, going in and out of business over and over again, while this one consistently spits out $500,000 a year in profit. Now, I tend to like this store better. It's a prettier store, better storefront, but let me share with you the nuance in the difference. Every morning when the employees come to work at Ruby Tuesdays, they have a checklist of responsibilities they have to fulfill before they can start their shift. Things like shining the brass with brass cleaner, cleaning that little guard above the salad bar 6, 8, 10 times a day, visiting the salad bar, making sure it's free from debris 8, 10, 12 times during their shift. And last but not least, When you go over here to this one, which will remain nameless, you walk in their bathroom and it's an utter mess. It's an absolute mess. Now here's a restaurateur that's got about $600,000 invested in his enterprise, but he hasn't figured out that the subtle system of holding his employees accountable for visiting the men's and ladies' restroom at least 3 times an hour to make sure that it's ready for his consumers. Because when you see a bathroom like that, what does it make you think of the cleanliness of the kitchen? So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the restaurants and businesses that you see on your screen today might not even be the finest representation of the product that they sell or that they serve. Is Chili's the best Mexican food in the country? Is TGI Fridays got the most dynamic menu in the world? Papa John's, Domino's, McDonald's. I mean, these are not people that are putting a better product forward consistently. Humble opinion, but because of the predictability, they've won the hearts and minds of the American consumer. And I'm going to share with you a little document called a restaurant cleanliness form. It speaks so clearly to what we're going to talk about today that is as ridiculous of an analogy as it seems with pickles and restaurant cleanliness forms. We want to get your mindset around the fact that we're not talking to you about changing the act of how you list and sell real estate. Instead, we're talking about changing the consistency of how you buy and list and sell real estate. See, my son worked at a few restaurants, and right now he's working for the Hyatt organization down at the iconic Pier 66 Resort and Spa. I said, they have a restaurant cleanliness form there, don't they? He says, sure they do. And I said, and they require the employees to go in there and initial it several times per hour that they visited that restaurant that restroom at certain times. Could you see where the nuance of this little guy over here would be? The trajectory of his restaurant would change if he would realize that he can't rely on the mood of his manager or his employees to hold them accountable to a certain level of performance. Well, I want to submit to you, you as a residential real estate professional cannot rely on your mood to produce results that are consistent and probable and likely to recur over and over and over. I would humbly submit that even if you're a 100 deal a year agent, you have to implement systems so that you can produce the same result repetitious. Remember, the highest paid coach in the history of the residential real estate industry is Mike Ferry, and he started our relationship with 2 words: repetitious involvement. What can we change about your endeavor today that can affect income change forever? I'm going to submit to you that one of the most simple and exciting tools that you can use is a program called Our Post-Closing Drill. There's absolutely no cost for it. It's been implemented across the country, and I had lunch with an individual agent who made $1.48 million, and he never had a system like this until we met. Compliance doc and audit. The first thing that happens after closing is a compliance doc, audit, and submit documentation to the office to make sure that you have everything. Every time, whether I'm in a mood or not, I deliver a closing gift. Sometimes it's a cleaning crew that goes into their house and cleans the entire house from top to bottom, inside of the cabinets, bathrooms, showers. It's meticulous on me. At closing, extended that olive branch of 3 cleaning service personnel to show up at their house and clean it top to bottom. A brass door knocker for maybe a different level of clientele, where they're going to get their family's name engraved on a brass door knocker on their front door from me. Or the least case would be a gift basket or a bottle of wine from our company thanking them for doing business. What if you're not in the mood to give a closing gift? What if they upset you during the process and you said, forget it, no closing gift for them? Customer satisfaction survey. What, do you don't want to hear the negativity, or you don't feel that your endeavor is ripe for a Fortune 500 caliber customer satisfaction survey. We give, usually at the closing table, when everyone's excited and in a good mood, we slide across the customer satisfaction survey that they can fold, put in a sealed envelope, and turn over to the brokerage. A post-closing drill includes homestead application. If your county offers homestead exemption, you send that reminder out with a HUD-1 closing statement. Now this is where this gets cute. The homestead application has to go out 3 weeks after closing. So we have a tickler system in our office where at closing, we prepare the homestead reminder and the HUD-1, and then we put it in a tickler file to go out to the consumer via snail mail, direct mail, there's a theme here, so that they receive a HUD-1 closing statement and homestead application reminder exactly 3 weeks after they had their closing with us. How many times do we get busy during the holiday season, especially that run between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you fail to send out your holiday cards to your past customers or your sphere of influence? Of course, there's services, but what we elected to do in our post-closing drill was to go ahead and automate the holiday card process for all of our past customers by requiring our real estate agents to hand address, sign, lick, stamp, and seal, and put into the December 1st box for a tickler file that will go out on December 1st. These are subtle little changes that, knowing that my customer is going to have to file a tax return and they're going to need their HUD-1 closing statement in order to maximize their tax deductions with their accountant. We also do a tickler file with a HUD-1 closing statement, tax preparation reminder, a breakdown of the things that our CPA has allocated as deductible, and a statement that goes out to them mid-January after the hustle and bustle of the holiday season, further reminding them of how professional we are as a real estate provider. 2 birthday cards filled out, dated, and put in a tickler file for their birth month. At the first of their birth month, the birthday cards go out to every client that we've ever worked with, and we do 2 for every closing. Again, there's a theme here, is hand addressed and hand stamped make a huge impact with consumers, especially in this digital age. It's one thing to shoot an email to someone, it's a whole nother to take the time to open up a birthday card that's hand addressed and hand signed. So putting that in the tickler for the beginning of the following month. Now all of these things happen, and it would be easy for you to say, man, this cat's really passionate about the post-closing drill. And that's because from 1987 or so to 2017, I required every realtor that ever worked for me to at least understand and articulate the post-closing drill procedure, because I know it adds 4 to 6 closings a year through your past customers and your sphere of influence, depending on the volume that you do. We have a 1-year anniversary card that's hand addressed and hand signed that goes into a tickler file for the month of the closing the following year. We also enter the consumer into our past customer sphere of influence database immediately prior to closing. And then about a week or so after the closing, we want to revisit the customer with a bottle of wine, a pie, or dinner. There's a lot of neat ways that you could bring over a tray to help somebody get acclimated to their new home. And these may seem like overkill, but you're talking about a proven way to make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month selling residential real estate in your community. Housewarming visit with a bottle of wine, pie, or dinner after they've been entered into our past customer sphere of influence database. Then and only then, number 11 is my absolute pickle floret. If you're Ray Kroc, you know what I'm talking about. This is what I fought for years and years and years, implementation. No check request, no deposit of check until all 10 of those past customer post-closing drill initiatives are done. And you think I'm crazy, but I'm going to tell you why we fought so hard for that. It has to do with why that restroom cleanliness checklist is so important. It has to do with where the placement of those pickles are so important. If I could get my realtors to adhere to those 10 initiatives before they deposited their check, now we're cooking with gas. Number 12, celebrate the achievement with the team of that closing and enter the accomplishment on our source of business chart. That is the last step of the 12-step program. We did improve the program in middle of 2002 by adding a 5-year post-closing campaign, which was digital in nature. And now you guys use terms like CRM. And there's so much awesome technology that we're going to talk about in a little bit that you can use to automate these processes and these touches. But ultimately, this could be a gift to you that could change the dynamic of your past customers in your sphere of influence. We call it our 12-step program for adding past customer referrals. And boy, I can tell you, I've used it for going on 30 years, and I wouldn't enter a real estate market as a broker owner or a real estate professional without implementing my post-closing drill. What if there was a proven system for converting for sale by owners to MLS listings without cold calling? Would you at least be interested in seeing what that was about? Annie Mac Home Mortgage sponsors a complete follow-up system for sale by owners that we call EBOL. EBOL is an acronym called Every Buy Owner List. EBOL's for sale by owner CRM is a complete turnkey solution that does not require any cold calling, and it's an absolute free system here at Annie Mac Home Mortgage. We break down the sweat equity and check equity that you have to put in to a prospect with an initial contact, letter, a specific note. And you can see how your relationship to that consumer would build as they're coming to terms with the fact that whether they're going to sell their house as a do-it-yourselfer or to hire a professional like you. We've studied the mathematics for decades, literally decades, and this is literally spend a penny, make a dollar mathematics. This is about a $5 per prospect investment, and we've converted 1 of every 10 prospects for almost 30 years. In my brokerage, I put a guarantee stamp on it because I can monitor them very, very closely, and I can find out whether or not they did all their steps or not. But ultimately, if I could take 1 by owner for a $539 investment, times 10 is $53.90, and I can make back $5,390 average commission on each deal, I think this is a winner into epic proportions, and I hope you'll take a closer look at it. From 1986 to 2017, we had 1,500 agents proving this 10-to-1 conversion system that are implementing this very, very simple checklist, much like that restroom cleanliness checklist, right? It's not much to it, except you enter the consumer's information here and you stay in touch with them over a 3-week period of time. We want you to change the context of your relationship to a for sale owner. Rather than convincing people that they should list their property with you, we just want you to be present when they come to terms with the fact that they should. And that means staying in touch with them over a 3 to 5 week period of time with consistent follow-up that's not dependent upon your mood, your aspirations, your ambition. It's just a simple, methodical process that can elevate your income by 3, 4, 5, 6 extra listings a year just with the amount of labor that you do. This particular program has been implemented by the Annie Mac Nation all over the country, and it's really been proven it's a well-oiled follow-up system for your for sale owners. So here we go on to another tangent where we're going to dig in to the fact that what if there were a free system that you could use today to sell houses faster and to sell houses for more money? Would you be interested in a system like that? What if rather than just list homes for sale, when somebody said, "What do you do for a living?" You were at a soccer game with your daughter. You were at a JC's meeting, a Kiwanis Club meeting, a Young Republicans meeting. You were at an event with your spouse. And someone came up to you and said, what do you do for a living? What do you do? And you said, I'm a realtor, almost apologetically. What if instead of saying you're a realtor, you say, I'm paid to maximize and protect the equity in residential real estate. Sellers hire me to increase the sale price of their home and to sell their homes faster, helping them protect their equity and maximize their equity. What if you took some advice from a guy named Kevin Harrington, who's worth $450 million. He's the original investor in the program called Shark Tank. He's the guy who says that when somebody asks you what you do for a living, you need to have a system called your introduction. A system that you say what you do that evokes a sense of interest. So, just spitballing, what if instead of saying, I'm a realtor, you said, I maximize and protect equity for home sellers and I've been doing it for 30 years. I sell houses faster and for more money than anybody else in the real estate business and I've been doing it that way for 20 years. See, Kevin Harrington teaches entrepreneurial endeavor to the business school at Tampa, and one of my very, very good friends is an entrepreneur of record for that business school, and we stay in touch quite a bit. And he says that the way that you introduce your service to the public at large determines within a few seconds on whether or not they're going to hold you to high esteem or yawn. Oh, I'm a realtor. I'm going to challenge you to think of a system to introduce the way you do business differently. So maybe it's, what if you're paid to maximize and protect the equity in residential real estate? What if you've been doing that way for years? I'm going to share with you a system sponsored entirely by Annie Mac Home Mortgage that gives you actual step-by-step tasks, assigns you simple checklists to prepare a real estate property for the marketplace. What I mean by that is the term staging is used by some of the elite residential real estate professionals across the country. I have a $130 million a year lady in Laguna Springs, California that leads with staging as her initiative. There are several $150 to $200 million a year teams nationwide that lead with staging, protecting the equity in your home. Maximizing your equity becomes the mantra of elite realtors. So am I a realtor? Do I list and sell real estate, or do I maximize the equity position in residential real estate? Do I protect the equity in residential real estate for my clients nationwide? What if Annie Mac Home Mortgage had a complete turnkey system to properly prepare residential real estate for the marketplace? And what if you could use that turnkey app for absolute free, addressing some of the equity killers of a residential real estate transaction up front with a pre-listing inspection that includes curb appeal upon front entry, walking through the living areas, kitchen spaces, prompted like a true professional to look for common sense and maintenance issues to properly prepare the listing for the marketplace. It comes down to a skill set called Real Estate Staging Expert, and it's offered as a system, an entire turnkey system by Annie Mac Home Mortgage. We hope that you'll take advantage of this free system because, like I said, I've got realtors from Port Orange, Florida, all the way out to Laguna Springs that lead their consumers to protect equity and maximize their equity position by going into these relationships, not just to list the houses in the MLS, but moreover to protect the equity and maximize the equity position. This skill set has been shown to sell houses faster and for more money, and I think it will lead itself to differentiate you as well. We also gift you some geographic farming materials, some sphere of influence marketing materials that you can use in your local market as a direct result of gaining the Real Estate Staging Expert designation and skill set. I don't want you to think of this as a class. More, I would like you to think of it as a system to help you sell an extra 5 or 6 homes a year. There are expired listings in your marketplace that do not want to reduce their price. There are for sale owners that are frustrated right now and they need that extra encouragement of your professional expertise to get them over the hump. being a staging expert is a great way for you to differentiate yourself and stand yourself apart among your competitors. Now, I also said there'd be a system that we shared with you that automatically updates and increases the awareness of your customers with your presence on Facebook. And this program is now being linked to your MLS, so you don't have to do any data entry whatsoever. It automatically updates your Facebook page when you change the price of a listing, add a photograph to your listing, or even make an update to the comments in your listing. It publishes to your timeline and absolutely drives traffic to you for showing inquiries on those valuable listings. One of my big soapboxes in residential real estate is the residential listing posted in Facebook right between the teeny weeny bikini and the martinis from Friday night. It's a very disproportionate show of professionalism for our realtor associates across the country. Rather, put a Fortune 500 caliber post on your Facebook page every time you take a listing, every time you reduce a price, every time you change the photographs or information in that listing. It reposts to your Facebook business page. It's ripe with all kinds of call to action items for you to take advantage of, right up and through the gallery of homes, the mapping system, virtual tour and video technology. I sat with a realtor in Jupiter, Florida that got 9 showing requests from her Facebook page because of this Venus flytrap right here that you're looking at. In other words, the leads come by your social media and there's no call to action, but because of this request to showing or finance button sponsored by Annie Mac Home Mortgage, we can work together to capture those leads more effectively. The key here is automation. The key here is automation so that we take the feed out of your MLS and post it to your social media. But there's also one other form of system that I'd like to share with you. We don't provide it here at Annie Mac Home Mortgage, and we don't have any relationship to a vendor that does. But I think it's high time for you to have an IDX MLS search on your Facebook page. You have so many eyeballs visiting your social media that you need to have the ability to search MLS on your Facebook page now. There's many vendors that offer it. This is a $99 a year program right here to integrate IDX into your Facebook. Some of you in your boards of realty offer those systems for free. You just have to check with your board and see what it's going to cost you, what it's going to take to get MLS integrated into your social media LinkedIn account and your Facebook account. That's a system worth fighting for. We had Michael Hellickson on last week, and he shared with you the 10-10-10 rule. I want to say that that's a real system. That's a system that you can implement right now. It says spend 10 minutes on Facebook in the morning, spend 10 minutes on Facebook after lunch, and spend 10 minutes on Facebook before you go to bed at night, making sure that your customers know that you're a professional, that you're a family person, that you're a pillar of society, and letting them know through the 80-20 rule, 80% personal post, 20% business post, that you believe that you represent a professional that they want to get involved in. The other systems that Michael spent time on, and I hope you'll go back and watch the archive again, is targeting and retargeting. And I'm going to share with you something that he did last month, but it really speaks to the integration of systems. Once you have the anatomy of a Facebook ad, stick with me. You've got the ways to grab attention. You've got the ways to create interest, to call a decision an action, call to action, and you've got a formula here for Facebook advertising that is proven. And every vendor that speaks to you, every perspective is a little different. This guy's listed over 750, had 750 homes in his inventory at one time. He coaches the Bjorkman team. He coaches hundreds of real estate agents from across the country that I've gotten to know personally, including one right here in Tampa, Florida, that I've spent some really strong, intimate time with, understanding how the Facebook advertising system works. I can only tell you guys, if you're not involved in Facebook boosting or targeting or retargeting in 2017, 18, 19, and 20, you're going to be squeezed out of the mainstream residential real estate. There's never been such an epic shift to the digital world in lead capture and lead conversion than what Facebook, LinkedIn, and a few other players have put together. But during Mike's program, he focused on how many clicks, by when, and the budget, and all those things. And I couldn't tell you how astonished I was. I was astonished enough to be pessimistic and darn right cynical. Okay? Let me say something to you. As the leader of AndyMac Worx Productivity Platform, it's my job to vet some of these programs before they make it in front of you, some of these systems. And I verified 30 seller leads came out of a $120 investment. In my day, 86 through 2006, I would have to spend $1,200 to $1,500 to get 1, 2, or 3 seller inquiries. To be able to use Facebook to generate legitimate bona fide seller inquiries that are asking for valuations, asking for listing appointments, asking for somebody to come by and talk to them about the residential real estate sale process is a phenomenon that I will not stop harping on until you implement it. We also talk about the system of using squeeze pages. Now, an hour together at a Lunch and Learn is not enough time to delve deep into exactly how to implement squeeze pages and unbalanced pages into your residential real estate profession. But there's vendors like Unbalanced, Infusionsoft, and Bold Leads that teach classes on this stuff ad nauseum. There's a program called Sales Funneling. Sales Funneling. It's a system that can make you, and you much more efficient moving forward. Sales funnels drive awareness, interest, decision, and action into a CRM and allow you to follow up on that consumer religiously, whether you're in the mood to or not. I can't stress enough, one of the themes to the McDonald's analogy and the restroom cleanliness analogy is you can never rely on the mood of the entrepreneur to perform those very, very tasks that are crucial to the achievement of the company's goals. And I'm going to submit to you that as a residential real estate professional, sometimes energy levels shift, sometimes enthusiasm or ambition shifts, and we're not always in the mood to do those mundane tasks that take us to the next level of productivity. The last system I want to share with you before moving on to source of business charting and a little soapbox that I'm going to stand on is the next National Lunch and Learn League is going to focus on this one system called Probate Real Estate Worx. This is a system that I've been investigating for about 5.5 months. I met some people that play in this world, real estate attorneys, probate attorneys, real estate agents that capitalize on the probate opportunity. And because of my investigation, I found some systems for listing motivated sellers through probate real estate. I found some systems for finding the probate cases, systems for getting them to call you instead of you having to call them, and ultimately a process for helping those families work through the difficult probate system in your local courthouse. It's all about finding, helping, and earning through the probate systems. And next month's Lunch and Learn is the National Lunch and Learn League is going to be sponsored entirely by AndyMac Home Mortgage and focus on probate residential real estate works. That means that you're going to be armed and equipped with the tools to list an extra 4 to 6 homes a year as a direct result of a fully automated system called Probate Residential Real Estate Worx. Now, we went through a system for capturing past customers and referrals through our post-closing drill. We went through a system for converting for sale owners without cold calling. Went through how to sell houses faster and for more money, which is a fantastic system. System to help you stand out from the rest of the crowd by focusing on protecting the equity and maximizing the sale prices of the homes that you represent. A system to be more efficient and automate your social media. A way to automate and upgrade your Facebook. Systematic ads that produce, and you can go back to last month's National Lunch and Learn archive to learn more about that. And how to add 6 new listings without cold calling in Probate Residential Real Estate Worx. So now you're going to give me one last chance to go out on a soapbox and talk to you about a new way to manage yourself. Many of us were drawn to the residential real estate enterprise because we wanted to be our own boss. Some of us even had that little bit of rebel without a cause nature where we had an aversion to authority or a downright feistiness that wanted to be more independent, wanted to be on our own. You didn't want somebody to have to tell you what to do every single day of your business. But then again, some of us crave that supervision. Some of us require that sense of what to do, how to do it, when to do it. This is a silly little hand-drawn chart that I put together back in 1994 to go after a fixed $2 million benchmark that involved 6 sources of business. To this day, one of my most proud accomplishments was after 12 months of work, 6 or 7 sources of business, having a benchmark for each source of business, I was able to achieve that little teeny goal of an income relevant to $2 million in sales. It seems kind of silly going back that far, but after that, I was able to confidently project forward through vision the sources of business that were going to change the trajectory of my income and my family's life. The breakthrough year 1997 was a $4.8 million goal that I hit during that calendar year to help jump my production. Later on, I went in to manage source of business charts for hundreds of real estate agents all over the country, including some that were 8, 10, $12 million source of business charts. So I'm going to take a second and explain to you what source of business charting does for you. Typically, an agent that makes less than $100,000 a year should start to focus on 5 new systems that he or she can implement to manage properly over the course of his annual endeavor. What I mean by that is, so let's say your associate personal sphere of influence is one of the systems that you're going to implement, maybe from today's conversation, where you're going to go about your post-closing drill and your past customers a little bit differently. Well, let's set a benchmark of $500,000 in sales volume to come from that past customer sphere of influence. And I'm going to tell you why we set that. It's not because we want to limit you to the number of closings that you aspire to from your past customer or your sphere of influence. Instead, it's to set a firm par as the goal that you have within the context of that particular source of business. So again, when we set $500,000 as the goal for your associate level sphere of influence and past customers, we don't want you to tee up at the golf course not knowing what par is. Some of the greatest anxiety in the lives of residential realtors is this feeling that it's never enough. I did $1 million in for sale by owners, I did $1 million in expireds, I did $1 million out of my farm, I did $1 million from my personal sphere of influence, but I still have an uneasiness or a unnerving sense of anxiety about where my business is at. I could have done more, I could have done more. By setting simple source of business goals down to the nuance of which sources produce what, you can really change the way you feel about your residential real estate enterprise. This particular set of goals was $8.5 million, but let's break it down to see what I mean. You'll see that there's about 18 sources of business on this source of business chart, and we start to say, hey, rather than farming with the expectation that I'm going to list a house a month out of my farm, why don't we do some analysis of the geographic farm and really benchmark a couple of closings a year from that farm? Rather than say my sphere of influence is the lion's share of my business, my past customers in my sphere of influence, why don't we put a par out into the future that says, hey, 5 closings from my sphere of influence is about what I'm expecting. This is entrepreneurial analysis at its finest. So let's say you do 7. Well, that's like hitting a birdie, isn't it? That's like hitting a hole-in-one. You did 7 closings, you only benchmarked for 5. Source of business continues if you're going to work for sale by owners or list pendants, just listed, just sold, if you have a system for doing open houses. But each source of business becomes a standalone business plan that's results are probable and likely. I'm going to say that one more time. Each source of business becomes a standalone business plan which results are probable and likely. It's almost underwhelming to say I'm going to sell 5 residential real estate properties to my sphere of influence. It may be underwhelming for you to project forward 3, 4, or 5 closings this year from your geographic farm. But I can tell you, when you lower the breathing a little bit, when you are more sincere, and my favorite word, when you develop your own sense of conviction about what you're doing, then you're not blown in every direction like a wheat field, just swaying from one opportunity to the next. I hope you hear me on this. Source of business charting is about having some conviction about your business plan and having some confidences that you're going to achieve a certain amount by when. It'll take you off the Prozac and Xanax, I promise you. It'll start to build you a business plan that has some benchmarks that are probable and likely to be achieved. And when you combine those 5 sources of business with some underwhelming or relatively predictable business plans, you end up with a transaction volume at the end that's downright impressive. I would venture to say if there's 4,000 people watching today's National Lunch and Learn event, that about 3,500 of them have never achieved 19 closings in one calendar year. But like eating an elephant one bite at a time, or taking the journey of 1,000 miles one step at a time, all of us could agree that some geographic farming could result in 3 closings for a year, right? All of us could agree that a little bit of work in a particular section could do 3, 4, or 5 sales in a calendar year. So source of business charting is not only about measuring return on investment within your business endeavor, it's also for projecting out into the future what you feel is predictable, probable, and likely within the context of each individual business plan. Somebody once said, actually, sorry, it was in the Bible, it said, "A life without vision will perish." So often, I see residential real estate agents that don't have a specific vision or conviction for what the next 6, 9, or 12 months look like. If you'll work together with us to help you build a source of business chart where we can define exactly and precisely what your skill set stands for in your local market. How are you differentiating yourself? Which systems do you want to implement? And then we can work together to start to benchmark out through one of these source of business charts. Okay, my past customers, my for sale by owner follow-up system, my social media marketing, my farm area, my probate system. Each one represents an independent business plan, a standalone business plan that can provide results that are probable, likely, and reoccurring. See, individually, each layer on that cake isn't that sexy, not that overwhelming, not that exciting. But when you combine them with each other, that's a $90,000 GCI business plan. Not too shabby for a $3 million person in that room right there. Again, with all due respect to the 4,000 people that are watching, there's a good solid 500 of you that knock out 90, 100, 150 all day long, and that's not much. You need a different business plan. But I'm speaking specifically to that single mom that's tired of waiting for the child support to show up. I'm speaking to that IT guy that was displaced from a business that he was making $100,000 a year in. I'm speaking to that senior that's a little closer to retirement than he needs to be for his income stream. And I'm saying, if we could affect $3 million in production to come out of a source of business chart, could we work together more intimately? Could we work together more closely? And maybe Annie Mac Home Mortgage can help become that difference that you've been looking for structure, direction, and predictability in your real estate endeavor. All I would say is everybody got into the business to be their own boss, but some of us are lacking that vision, that conviction about our endeavor. So Annie Mac Home Mortgage provides a free source of business charting software that's available through Annie Mac Worx. You can get this software and pick from several different sources of business or add your own. It'll measure you right down to where are your gross commission checks going to come from, which sources are worth pursuing, which ones are not your cup of tea. And again, I hope you'll work with us. We've got 3 major programs on AnyMac Worx. The first one's called The Evolution of Efficiency. You watch that first. The second one is called The Top Sources of Business. And the last one is called Source of Business Charting, which you can dig deeper in to Source of Business Charting if it sounds like something that makes sense. So now we've checked off all my boxes. We hope we've done a good job engaging you. I don't think I entertained as much as I could have on this kind of a stream. I'm certainly much more of a teacher, trainer, and coach than I am an entertainer, but I do believe in what we're talking about, and each of these systems represents an opportunity for you to partner with AnyMac Home Mortgage, work more closely within the AnyMac Worx productivity platform, and get to know us better. What I want to invite you to do though, if you have questions about AnyMac Worx, if you have questions about the MyWorks suite, reach out to service@anymacworks.com as an email to get some support that you need. We're available to you via that email at service@anymacworks.com. If you've not yet signed up for anymacworks.com, talk to your mortgage professional in the room right there to see how deep and wide that rabbit hole goes at www.anymacworks.com. My name is Russ Fitzpatrick. I'm one of the lucky founders of the AnyMac Worx productivity platform. I'll wear the AnyMac sweater proud for as long as they'll have me, and it's my opportunity to invite you to explore all of the value, all of the leadership, and all of the systems inside of AnyMac Worx productivity platform. Thanks so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day.